So good af good afternoon, classmates, and especially to our teacher, Teacher Linteas, Sir Linteas. So I'm here to discuss or to report the project planning in Group 3. So here's the topics: the project management plan, the work breakdown structure, activity estimating, activity scheduling, activity network diagram, the critical path, schedule compression techniques, and lastly the project schedule. So let's proceed. Project management plan. What is project management plan? The project management plan is short PMP, meaning a comprehensive document that outlines the planning, executing, monitoring, and closing phase of a project. A PMP is a formal document prepared by the project manager. The project management planning provides essential product information and can be used to introduce project members to the project. So these are the these are the main components of project management plan. First is scope statement. Scope statement planning and developing a clear scope statement is the first step in the project management planning. The scope statement is used as a written confirmation of expected results of a project and a constraints under which you work. So the scope statement serve as an initial foundation in a project management planning, involving the careful planning and development of a clear statements outlining the anticipated outcomes of a project and the limitation or boundaries within which the project activities will be conducted. And the second is executive summary. An executive summary provides a brief overview of a PMP and includes the key elements of the projects that are detailed across the project plan. The executive summary distills the key components of the project management plan, in short PMP, into a concise overview. Project schedule. The project schedule is an important piece of the project plan. Generally, external stakeholders determine the deadline dates. Fine. A critical here the example po. A project schedule, a critical component of the project plan, typically as its deadline date determined by external stakeholders, like what I said earlier. So number 4 is project budget. In this section, project managers estimate the total cost of the project. A project budget includes an estimate of the combined cost of all activities, tasks, and milestone that are most fulfilled. Fifth, resource planning. Resource planning helps project manager allocate tasks to human and non-human resources and accurate the resource capacity. Stakeholder list. Stakeholder list can grow throughout the project, and it's not an exception. You can easily forget a few small stakeholders, and like those will likely have a disproportionately major influence on a project outcome. Number 7, communication management. Every project depends on a swift and timely communication strategy that should be well defined within the project management plan. So, number 8, risk register. The right way of risk management is by creating a risk registration which lists the most important risks to the successful completion and delivery of the project. So number 9, procurement plan. Procurement plan is the process of identifying outside product and service required. How will they be how will be procured, and how their quality and progress will be measured. So here's the type the typical project planning steps involved in project planning. So first is define a project. Second is to develop a project character. Third, create a work breakdown structure. Define a sequence activities. 5, develop a project schedule. Estimate resources and budget. 7 is risk management, quality, and 8, quality management. Number 9, communication plan. 10, procurement plan. 11, monitoring and controlling. 12, develop and document the project management plan. And lastly, review and approval. So first, define the project and define the project. When creating a project management plan, start by clearly articulate and the purpose of the objective of the project. Second is to develop a project charter. Create a formal document that authorizes the project's existence. This project charter should clearly encompass what is included and excluded from the project scope. Measurable objectives, constraints, assumption, and initial risk. Number 3, create a work breakdown structure. Break down the project into small manageable task and subtask. Define and sequence activities. Develop a detailed list of activities required to complete each task identified in the WBS. Number 5. Develop a project schedule. Create a timeline that includes project milestone, deadlines, and dependencies. Utilize tools, Gantt chart, and visualize the schedule, aiding in effective project time management. Number 6. Estimate resources and budget. Identify and allocate necessary resources, including human, financial, and equipment resources for each activity. Define roles and responsibilities for team members. Number 7. Risk management. Identify potential risk and that could impact the project and assess their likelihood and impact. Develop mitigation strategies, particularly for a high priority risk, to proactively address and manage uncertainties. Quality management. Define quality standards and metrics for project deliverables. Establish processes for both quality assurance and quality control. Ensure that the project meets predefined quality criteria. Number 9. Identify key stakeholders and understanding their communication needs. Procurement plan. Identify items or receive that need external procurement. Develop a procurement strategy and establish vendor selection criteria, ensuring effective and efficient external resourcing. Number 11. Monitoring and controlling. Define metrics and key performance indicators for monitoring project progress. Develop mechanism for controlling and addressing deviations from the plan. Facilitating ongoing project success. Number 12. Develop and document the project management plan. Comply all the information into a comprehensive project management plan document. This document serves as the primary reference for project execution, monitoring, and control. And lastly, review and approval. Review the plan with stakeholders for input the feedbacks. Obtain formal approval before implementing the plan. Ensuring alignment and commitment from all relevant parties. And that's all. And the second is work breakdown structure. So what is work breakdown structure? A work breakdown structure, in short, WBS, is a visual, hierarchical, and deliverable oriented deconstruction of a project. It is a helpful diagram for manager because it allows them to break down their project scope and visual all the tasks required to complete their projects. So and a work breakdown structure, or WBS visually decomposes a project into smaller manageable components, aiding project managers in organizing and understanding the scope by illustrating all necessary tasks. So, type of WBS. There are type of there are two main types of WBS, which is deliverable based and phase based. They depend on whether you want to divide your project in terms of time or scope. First is deliverable based work breakdown structure. Deliverable based first break down the project into all the major areas of project scope as controlling accounts, and then divide those into project deliverables and work package. So in concert and WBS is the project scope is initialized divide into major control accounts, which are then further decomposed into a project deliverables and work package, facilitating a structured approach to project management. Phase-based work breakdown structure. A phase-based ensure WBS display the final deliverable on top with the WBS levels below, showing the 5 phases of a project: initiation, planning, execution, control, and closeout. Just as an in the deliverable based WBS, the project phases are divided into project deliverables and work package. So here's the characteristics of a WBS. First is hierarchical structure. Second is unique identifier. Third is defined scope. Fourth is visual representation. So hierarchical structure. The WBS is a hierarchical decomposition of a project into smaller, more manageable components. The top of the hierarchy represent the project major deliverables, while the lower level breakdown each deliverables into smaller and more manageable tasks. Second is unique identifier. Each component of the WBS assigns a unique identifier, such as a number or code, to enable tracking, monitoring, and control of the project work. And third is defined scope. A WBS defines the project scope by identifying all the tasks that need to be completed to accomplish the product objectives. This enables project managers to plan, organize, and control the project work effectively. And lastly, visual representation. The WBS is typically presented as a graphical representation, such as a tree diagram, to make easier to understand and communicate. So, here the step-by-step process for creating one for your next project. First is define the project. Define the project clearly, articulate the objective, scope, and requirements of the project. Set project boundaries. Establish the limits and constraints within which the product will be executed, including any external factors that may impact its scope or timeline. Identify project deliverables or phases. Determine the major outcomes or phases that need to be accomplished to achieve the product objectives. Define level 1 elements. Create the top levels, categories, or elements that represent the main components of the project, such as major phase, deliverables, or key activities. Break down each of the level 1 element. Decompose each level 1 element into smaller or more manageable sub-elements or tasks, ensuring that they are specific, measurable, and achievable. Create a WBS dictionary. Develop a document that provides detailed description of each WBS element, including its purpose, scope, responsible parties, and any relevant notes or considerations. Identify team members. Assign team members or resources responsible for executing each WBS element, ensuring clarity and accountability within the project team. And lastly, create a Gantt chart schedule. Use the WBS to create a visual representation of the project timeline and consequence of activities using a Gantt chart, which helps in including and tracking progress throughout the project life cycle. By the following these steps, you can systematically create a comprehensive work breakdown structure for your project, enabling effective planning, organization, and execution for project activities. So here's the example of one WBS po. Ayan. You can see the company hold holiday party, organization, preparation, execution, flow up. So that's the example of WBS. So here in activity estimating. Activity duration is statements. Definition. These are definition, importance, and techniques. Activity duration statements are an important part of the project management process. They allow project manager to guess how long task will take and create a project schedule. If you are a leader or a team member working on starting a project, consider creating some activity duration statements to better organize and understand your progress. In this article, we discuss activity duration statement, their importance and several techniques on how to make them. So, activity duration statements it's involved determining the time required for each project activity, a crucial aspect of project planning that helps in scheduling and resource allocation through various estimation techniques. So what are activity duration statements? Activity duration statements are approximations of how much time project task will take. It can be in the form of different type periods such as hours, days, weeks, or months, and usually refer to work or business periods. Estimating the duration of specific activities can help the project manager guess the overarching project timeline and create a detailed project schedule. It can even help them to predict the cost of project activities and inform stakeholders about project goals. So there's the importance of the activity duration statement. So activity duration statement helps a lot in project planning because they allow managers to prepare for the time commitment for project. So there's some other ways there are important. First is create a project schedule. Project managers can create a project calendar and itinerary based on activity duration statement, which can help a team members know that to do when and increase overall efficiency. Creating a project schedule, and it involves utilizing activity duration statement to develop a calendar and number 2, provide a baseline. Activity duration statement can provide a baseline and against which to measure a project process. Okay gala po. So check team capabilities. As some projects have defined deadlines, activity duration statement can allow project manager to check whether their teammates can meet this. Estimate cost of a project. As some As some projects have predefined deadlines, activity duration statement can allow project manager to check whether their teams can meet this. Communicate with its stakeholders. Project managers can show activity duration statement and project schedule to stakeholders such as supervisors, investors, and even customers to update them about project progress. So, so activity duration statement techniques. Depending on the technique project managers use, their activity duration statement can have varying result and levels of levels of reliability. A project manager can also choose which technique to be used based on where they are in the project process and how much effort they want to put into a statement. So here's the techniques versus analog statement estimating. In the analogous estimating technique, project manager based their estimating on historical data, the duration values of previous similar projects. Parametric estimating, project managers conducting parametric estimating based their guesses on statistical calculation. There is expert judgment. The expert judgment techniques is the process of consulting an expert in the field for an activity duration statement. Group decision making, similar to the expert judgment technique. A project manager can consult their team members to make a group decision about an activity duration statement. 3-point estimating. In use the 3-point estimating techniques, project managers can come up with 3 data option: optimistic, pessimistic, and most likely is an estimate of a realistic project duration, which a project manager can create using a different technique. Bottom-up estimating. In bottom-up estimating, a project manager estimate the duration of the minor components of project activity and adds them together to get the final activity duration. So next is activity scheduling. So what is activity scheduling? Activity scheduling is a process of organizing and prioritizing tasks or activities within a project to determine their start and ends of date. Goal: to create a timeline that ensures efficient resources utilizing and timely completion of the project. So here's the importance of activity scheduling. Ensures project completion within deadlines. Facilitates resources allocation and utilization. Identifies critical paths and potential bottlenecks. Enhance coordination among team members. Helps in risk management and mitigation. So here's the key components of activity scheduling. First is task identification. Second is sequence determination, duration estimation, resources allocation, deficiency analysis. Last is scheduling. So first is task identification. Listening to all activities required for listing to all activities required for a project completion. Second is sequence determination, establishing the order in which task must be completed. Number 3, duration estimation, predicting the time needed for each task. 4, resource allocation, assigning resources, people, equipment, materials to task. Dependency analysis, identifying dependencies between tasks. Scheduling, creating a timeline with start and end dates for each task. So here's the types of scheduling techniques. First is Gantt charts. Second is critical path method. Third is program evaluation and review techniques. And lastly, resource leveling. So best practices for effective scheduling: collaboration, involve team members, use of software, employ project management tools, regular updates, keep schedule dynamic, buffer time, include contingency for delays, clear communication, ensure role understanding, review and adjust regularly, review and make adjustments. So we are now on project schedule network diagram. What is a project schedule network diagram? So alit po ang isang network diagram, project schedule network diagram. Provide a visual representation of project activities, their duration, sequencing, and dependencies, aiding team members in understanding task relationship and project flow. So here's the terms of project networking. A project schedule network diagram requires understanding key terms and applying them to the network diagram. For example, activity dependency, relationships among activities that shape the sequence in which the activities can be started and must be completed within the overall schedule. Arrows, graphical representation of activity connection, sequence and interdependency. Critical path, the longest sequence of activity that must be completed for the project to be finished on time. Float. The longest the amount of time an activity can be delayed without affecting a success or activity, or free float, or the amount of time an activity can be delayed without affecting the project end date, or total float. Lagging. Lag. The amount of time needed between two dependent activities. Lag represent the delay between two dependent activities within the project schedule. Predecessor. An activity that must happen before another can begin. Predecessor activities must be completed before their dependent successor activities can begin. And lastly, successor. An activity that must happen after a previous activity includes successor activities rely on their completion of their predecessor activities before they can commence. So, types of project networks diagrams. There are two types of project network diagrams in project management. These are the arrow diagramming method, or in short ADM, also referred to as the activity network diagram or the activity on arrow, and the precedence diagramming method, in short PDM. The latter is also known as a node network or the activity on node arrow diagram method, or in short ADM. In this diagram, an arrow is used to represent the activities in a given project. Due to its limitations, project managers no longer rely on it. However, they will still cover this to easy identification if it ever appears in the office or during your projects. In this project schedule diagram, the arrow trails signifies the start of the given project, given activities. The head is its completion and the length its duration. Each of the arrows in this diagram is connected to two boxes, popularly refers to as the nodes, which signifies the start or end of a given activity in a sequence. The starting node of an activity is referred to as the inode, whereas the J node. Therefore, the EDM chart only represents to the finish to start, or FS, a relationship between the nodes and activities. What do we do with the dummy activities? Project managers are generally advised to include such arrows even though they do not represent a direct relationship. This chart cannot include lead and logs time dependently. One must introduce new nodes and activities. So here's the example. Precedence diagram method, PDM. The precedence diagram method is a project management technique used to visually depict the sequence of activities in project. It's type of network diagram that shows the logical relationship between different tasks or activities required to complete a project. So, the finish to start. Activity B cannot start until activity A is finished. Start to start. Activity B cannot start until activity A start. Finish to finish. Activity B cannot finish until activity A is finishes. And last is start to finish. Activity B cannot finish until activity A starts. PDM diagram provide a clear visualization of the sequence of our activity dependency between them, helping project managers and team understand the critical path of the project, identify potential bottlenecks and optimize scheduling and resource allocation. PDM is often used in conjunction with other project management techniques such as a critical path method, in short CPM, to effectively plan and manage complex projects. For an example of the critical path. What is critical path? In project management, the term critical path refers to the longest chain of interdependent tasks and activities that have to be finished on schedule in order for a project to be finished by the deadline. It establishes the bare minimum of time needed to do a project. Task identification. The first step in a project's completion is to list every task that needs to be finished. After that, a map of each task is created showing its dependency and projected completion time. Networking diagram. Using this data, make a flowchart or network diagram that shows the order of tasks and their relationship. This flowchart makes the project workflow easier to see. Network diagram creation utilize task data or visualize task order and relationships, enhancing project workflow comprehension. Critical path determination. After creating the network diagram, you may examine it to determine which dependent task path is longest between the project's beginning and end. The crucial way is the one that is the longest. Examine the critical path analysis. The tasks that are directly related to the project totals length and will be affected if they were delayed are on the critical route. There is no wiggle room or float that these tasks, thus delaying them won't impact the project completion dates. Monitoring and management. To make sure tasks are moving forward according to plan, project managers concentrate their attention on those in the critical path. A critical route. It includes be necessary to reaccumulate resources of rearrange order to get the project back on track if the critical route items are behind schedule. Schedule optimization. Project managers can improve their project schedule by having a true understanding of the critical path. They can more flexible allocate resources and possibly reduce the total project length by identifying tasks that are not on the critical route. A sophisticated method for scheduling, planning, and managing complicated project is the CPM. It entails listing every activity required to execute a project, figuring out the order in which this task must be completed, and finally estimating the longest amount of time needed to be finished a project from beginning to end. The term critical path refers to the longest duration which offer a precise schedule for project completion. With so many interdependent operation in a project, CPM is especially helpful since it helps project managers identify possible bottlenecks and optimal resources allocation areas. Project managers can better ensure timely project completion, minimizing risk, and prioritize work by identifying the key path. So the schedule of compression technique. So what is schedule compression techniques? Schedule compression techniques are a method used in a project management to shorten project timeline without sacrificing quality. This strategy involved optimizing resources, requencing tasks, and adding a project scope to meet tight deadlines efficiently. By employing these techniques, project managers can accelerate project completion while still achieving the project objective within constraint. Schedule compression techniques involve optimizing resources, requencing tasks, and adjusting project scope to shorten project timelines without compromising quality, enabling project manager to meet tight, like what I said, tight deadline tight deadlines efficiently while still achieving the project objectives within constraints. Overview of schedule compression. Schedule compression refers to a practice of shortening project timelines while maintaining project objectives. It holds significant importance in project management as it allows teams to adapt to changing circumstances, meet deadlines, and optimize resources effectively. So, difference between crushing and fast tracking schedule. Crushing involves reducing the project duration by adding more resources to critical path activities. It focuses on minimizing the overall project duration by accumulating additional resource to a specific task without changing their sequence. Second is fast tracking. On the other hand, involve overlapping sequential project activities to reduce overall project duration. These techniques allow certain activities to start before their predecessors are completed, thereby compressing the project schedule. So these are the types of schedule compression techniques. Crushing. Crushing. Crushing involves shortening project duration by allocating additional resources to critical path activities. Crushing accelerates project completion by adding extra resources to critical path activities, maximizing efficiency without altering task sequence. Fast tracking. Fast tracking involves overlapping sequential project activities to reduce overall project duration. Fast tracking condense project timelines by allowing sequential activities to overlap, thereby shortening the project duration. Resource leveling. Resource leveling adjusts the project schedule to ensure optimal utilizing of resources. By adjusting the project schedule to ensure consistent workload and prevents resource over allocation. Scope adjustment. Scope adjustment involves modifying the project to shorten project duration. By removing non-essential tasks or features. Schedule crushing software. Schedule crushing software assist in the identifying critical path activities and optimizing resource allocation. Schedule crushing software aids in project timeline management by identifying critical path, like what I said, by identifying critical path activities and optimizing resource allocation to meet project deadlines effectively. So these are the benefits and challenges of schedule compression techniques. So here's the benefits. Faster project completion and faster schedule compression techniques enable projects to be completed within certain time frames, allowing organization to meet tight deadlines and deliver results more quickly. And cost saving short by shortening project's duration. Schedule compression techniques can reduce overall project cost by minimizing resource usage and overhead expenses. So there's the challenges. Increased risk. Schedule compression techniques may introduce additional risk to the project such as resource overload, increased dependency on critical resources, and heightened pressure on project teams. Potential quality issues. The focus on expediting project timelines throughout schedule compression may compromise through schedule quality standards if not properly monitored. Reduce time for though rough planning, testing, and quality assurance activities may result in deliverables that not meet stakeholders' expectation or quality requirements. Resource strain. Incentive use of resource in schedule compression may strain project resourcing, leading to brownout, decreasing productivity, and increased turnover rates among team members. Balancing resource allocation while maintaining project momentum becomes critical to avoid resource bottlenecks and ensure sustainable project execution. Stakeholders' expectation. Accelerating by schedules may create unrealistic expectation among stakeholders regarding project deliverables, timelines, and resource availability. Effective communication and stakeholder management are essential to align expectation with project and limitations. Addressing these challenges requires careful planning, risk management, and stakeholders management throughout the project life cycle. Project managers must strike a balance between expediting project schedules and ensuring that quality standards are held, resources are effectively managed, and stakeholder expectations are appropriately managed. So here's the last project schedule. Project schedule. A project schedule is a detailed plan that outlines sequence of a task, milestone, resources, and timelines required to complete the project. It serves as a roadmap for project execution, guiding the team on what needs to be done, when it needs to be done, and who is responsible for each task. Objectives. Time management. The primary objective of a project schedule is to effectively manage time by defining the sequence of activities, allocating resources, and establishing realistic timelines for a task completion. Coordination. A project schedule facilitates coordination among team members by clearly outline responsibilities, dependencies between tasks, and overall project timeline. Resource allocation. By specifying the resource required for each task and the duration of activities. A projecting schedule enables efficient resources allocation. A project schedule enables efficient resource allocating by specifying required resource for each task and their duration. Risk management. Risk management. A well-planned project schedule identifies potential risk related to some constraints, resource availability, or task dependencies. Risk management. Progress tracking. Progress tracking. The schedule serves as a baseline against which project progress is monitored and measured. The project schedule serves as baseline and monitoring and measuring project progress against planned timeless. Communication. A project schedule acts as a communication tool enable stakeholders to understand the project timelines, milestone, and dependency. Acting as a communication tool, the project schedule helps stakeholders to understand the project timelines, like what I said, milestone, and dependencies. Decision making. Having a clear project schedule provides the necessary information for making informed decisions regarding project priorities, resource allocation, and risk management. A clear project provides essential information for making informed decisions regarding a project priorities, resource allocation, and risk management. And that's what I said for that. So lastly is customer satisfaction. By delivering project on time and within budget, will execute project schedule contributes the customer satisfaction. By delivering so these are the key components of a project schedule. Optimal resource utilizing. Ensure efficient use to avail resources to maximize activity, productivity, and minimize waste within the project schedule. Time management. It involves effectively organizing and sequencing project activities to meet deadlines and achieve project milestone on schedule. Risk mitigation. Risk mitigation identifies potential risk and implements strategies to minimize their impact on project sub objectives and timeless. Stakeholders communication. Stakeholder communication. Ensure transparent and timely dissemination of project progress, change, and updates to relevant stakeholders throughout the project life cycles. Budget control. Budget control involves monitoring and managing project expenditures to ensure the expenses remain within the allocated budget. Quality assurance. Quality assurance focused on implementing processes and standards to maintain and improve the quality of the project deliverables and outcomes. So these are the techniques of creating a project schedule. Work breakdown structure. break down the project scope into smaller manageable components or work packages, and facilitating better organization and understanding of the project task. Identify dependencies, determine the sequence of a task and their dependency, identify that must be completed before others can start, and those that can be performed correctly, which is precedence, relationship, and parallel activity. Estimate task duration. Estimate the time required to complete each task or activity. Use historical data, experiment, judgment, analogous state estimating, or bottom-up estimating techniques to derive accurate duration statement. It involves estimating the time required to complete each task activity using various techniques such as historical data, such as and experiment judgment, providing insights into project timelines and resources needs. Allocate resources, identifying the resources with human, equipment, and materials needed for each task and allocate them accordingly. Consider the resource availability, skill sets, and constraint when assigning result to task. The necessary resource, which is human equipment and materials to each task, considering factors like availability, skill sets, and constraint, ensuring resources are utilized efficiently. Critical path method, short CPM. Determine the critical path, which is the longest sequence of dependent task that determines the minimum project duration. Identify tasks on the critical path, ensuring they are completed on time to prevent delays. The longest sequence of the dependent task that determines the minimum project duration, enabling project manager to focus on critical task to prevent project delays and ensure timeline completion, like what I said. Techniques of creating project also. Network diagrams. Create network diagrams. Create a network diagram such as Gantt chart or PERT chart to visualize the project schedule, dependencies, and critical path. These diagrams help in communicating the project schedule to stakeholders and tracking progress. So, in aiding in communication with stakeholders and progress tracking, buffer management. Incorporate contingency buffers such as Slack or Float into the schedule to account for uncertainties and potential delays. Allocate buffer strategically to critical tasks on areas of high risk to mitigate schedule risk. Schedule compression techniques. Explore techniques such as caching, adding resources to critical tasks, or fast tracking performing tasks in a parallel to accelerate the project's schedule to meet tight deadlines without compromising quality. Regular monitoring and control. Continuously monitor project progress against the schedule, identifying deviation or variance, and take corrective action as necessary. Stakeholders manage engagement and involves key stakeholders in the scheduling process to gather input, validate assumption, and gain buy-in. These are the steps of creating a project. What, who, and how long. Determine what work is to be performed. Determine who needs to perform the work. Determine how long it will take to perform the work. So here are the steps. Include all the work associated with delivering the project on time. Include activities, deliverables, milestone, and plans to start dates. And so here are the example of CPM.